chat today with all the NFTE staff and the speakers. So if you have questions, you can pop them in the chat box. The chat feature is at the bottom of the screen as well. Just click on chat, pop your questions right in there. And then also, if you have a question, you can raise your hand, and the raise hand and lower hand feature is right next to where you renamed yourself. So you can raise your hand and lower your hand there as well. And then Daniel will get right back to you with any questions, or Chris or myself will.
Wait, do I press start video?
Yes.
Oh no, Kevin.
Yes, you do. All right, so I'm just gonna hand it over to Daniel, who's gonna introduce our amazing panel speakers today. Daniel, go ahead.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so very much, all. First and foremost, it's actually pretty cool to be here, chatting with you. This is one that we get a lot of questions about, myself and everyone on the Southeastern team. We've gone through a lot of business plans, and a lot of students always cite, when it gets to the marketing section, social media as being one of the things that they're going to use for building out their brand and marketing for their business. So today we've got we've got three panelists that are amazing individuals in their own right. All of them actually actively currently making a living doing business currently. And so we're going to go ahead and get started with introducing them.
That's probably because I ain't turned on my video.
We've got Laurel Mintz, who is the founder and CEO of Elevate My Brand, with multiple years of marketing experience. She's actually also on the board of our directors, and she has a interesting life philosophy called IOGID. L'Oreal, if you are on, would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. Can you guys hear me?
We've got you.
Awesome. Hi guys, I'm Laurel Mintz. As mentioned, I sit on the board for NFTE, which I'm so grateful for. I've been involved for years and years. I currently run a marketing agency called Elevate My Brand, elevatemybrand.com if you want to check us out. I've been doing that for over 11 years now.
Hello?
And we do digital and experiential marketing. So on the digital side, think web, content, social, advertising, and creative. And on the experiential side, which we all know is not happening right now, think launch events, trade shows, conferences, national field marketing efforts. We have brands that you've probably never heard of, and then we've got brands as big as Verizon, Facebook. So we've been working in this space a very long time with probably over 200 brands under our belt at this point.
Awesome, awesome. And yeah, tell me a little bit more about that FIOGID thing.
FIOGID, it's figure it out, get it done.
I love it.
If any of my team can Google something and they ask me a question, they have to go sit in a corner. No, I'm kidding. But it's really our motto as an agency. We're small and scrappy, which I know a lot of you out there are as well. And so figure it out, get it done has become our motto, because really everything is figure outable, right? With enough Googling, with enough asking support, with enough of your team around you, you can really figure anything out. So that's our motto as an agency.
Awesome, awesome. Well, glad to have you here. Coming up next, Miss Anne-Marie Sorrell, President and CEO of the Mosaic Group, author, philanthropist. Sounds like you put in about 30 hours a day. I'm not sure how you get everything done. And definitely introduce yourself, Miss Anne-Marie Sorrell.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here this morning with you. Thank you so much for having me. Really excited about the topic because it's very, what can I say, relevant right now, especially with everyone working virtually. So the Mosaic Group, we're a full service advertising, marketing, and public relations firm. We've been around for 15 years. This is actually our 15-year anniversary this year. Not sure how we'll be spending it. Looks like it'll be virtually. But we work with a lot of different organizations, mostly government agencies, so cities, counties, state organizations, as well as corporate companies. We work a lot in the real estate development and infrastructure, transportation sectors, as well as healthcare and with nonprofits. So some of our clients include like the City of Hallandale Beach, City of West Palm Beach, Broward College, Broward Health, and major global organizations such as AECOM. So it really varies in what we do for them. Everything is customized for every client. As far as myself, I'm an author of a book that's about dating and relationships. I've won numerous awards around my community engagement, very active in my community, sit on several community boards, and my passion is supporting anything that's related to youth and girls and women and minorities in particular.
Awesome. And I love the fact that you ended that way, which is a great segue. I just wanted to ask you, your website says you are a social architect.
Yes.
Talk quickly, 20 seconds, what is a social architect?
It just means that if there's something I feel like I should take a stand on and create some type of initiative or movement around it, I'm like jumping right in and taking action. It could be a short-term project or something more long-term, but as long as it's going to impact the community and provide social justice, social awareness, then that's what that is.
Awesome. 20 seconds. That was beautiful. Last but not least, Mr. Dennis Ho, who is an agency owner of Collision, if I'm not mistaken, Collision Digital. And he is a marketing strategy guru, a serial entrepreneur. I know a lot of us who've gone through this road would consider ourselves the same. And he's also a NFTE alum. So Dennis, if you're on, definitely feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Dennis. As you said, I am a NFTE alumni. I think what you guys are doing here is really great. I wish something like this was available during my time at NFTE. But today I'm really glad to be here to share my knowledge of social media and my experience doing digital marketing. The agency that I work for is Collide Digital. We're a full service inbound and web design agency. Started this in 2016 and been helping primarily small and local businesses use digital marketing to put themselves out there to customers in their local community.
Awesome. So like I said, y'all, I promised people that are actually out there doing this right now for some amazing companies. Before we get into, I guess, the questions, and I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible because I know we've got a bunch of different perspectives, different ideologies, different experiences, and I want each of you to get an opportunity to share that with the students. Just want to ask two questions about you when you were their age, right? So each of you tell me, what was your favorite subject in high school, least favorite subject in high school, and a quick, how did you get from high school to where you are now? Ladies, who wants to go first?
Oh, I'll start.
Awesome.
My favorite subject in high school, I went to a performing arts school, very liberal arts school. And so we had a thing called independent studies where you could basically make up your own category and go after it. And so that was my favorite because I studied cooking and it was really unique to my school. So that was my favorite. I think my least favorite was probably anything in the math categories, although I did take some advanced courses. I really was not a fan of math, although that did not serve me as I started my agency, as I'm sure the other owners would attest to. Once you start really understanding your numbers, they read like a diary of your business. So it's a critical point for the growth of your agency. How I got from high school to where I am today. I went to UCSB undergrad, go Gauchos, ooh, ooh. And then I went to, I did my JD and my MBA at Rutgers on the East Coast, which everyone always thinks I'm from the East Coast, but I'm not. I'm actually from Laurel Canyon, for those of you that are in LA. I'm LA OG. So went out to the East Coast for law school and business school, came back, ended up running my dad's business. He got sick, he's healthy now, but I was interim CEO at a really large global brand for 3 years at 26 with a staff of 60. I had total imposter syndrome. I thought any day someone's gonna come kick me out of this chair because I don't belong here. Long story short, I learned how to successfully run a global organization. And when he was able to step back in, I stepped away and started the agency about a year after that. So that's as succinctly as I can get it.
That's an awesome story. Thank you for sharing it. Anne-Marie, you're up.
All right, so my favorite subject in high school was English. I absolutely loved writing. I loved putting words together. I had no idea it would lead me to this career. My least favorite subject was science, and ironically, I went to college thinking that I was going to be a physical therapist. And quickly realized that I was such a failure in science. It was just not my strong point. And so I went back to studying things that I could do well, which was writing and content. And I actually studied healthcare management, and that was learning the business of healthcare. I went to, so from high school to where I am now, left high school, went to Florida A&M University, go Rattlers, and got my bachelor's degree in healthcare management, and really loved and understanding and learning the business of the healthcare industry. And so I thought for sure I was going to run some major hospital or community health center. And then after graduation, I went and realized that I couldn't get the job that I thought I was going to get. And so I went back to grad school at Nova Southeastern University and started working on my MBA, and really realized that I absolutely loved everything about business, not just the business of healthcare, but business in general. And when I looked at a specialty area, marketing was the thing that I was most drawn to, because I love people, I love creativity, I love writing, and I love, keeping things interesting and not doing the same mundane things. So marketing was my specialty area. I worked for a couple of organizations, got started in real estate, stayed there for a couple of years, and then decided to start my own company. I was 24. Didn't totally know what I was doing. Started out as an event planning company for nonprofit organizations. I felt that was something that I did very well as a volunteer, and wanted to take it to another level and actually figure out how to get paid for it. But what I quickly realized with those organizations was that they also needed marketing. They also needed public relations and advertising, because they could have a fundraising event and no one would be there to show up, or they weren't growing their audiences. So added marketing, advertising, and public relations to our service line. And early on at that point, we were one of the few agencies that were a full service agency. Everyone was doing either marketing or events or PR. So that's the short of how I got to where I am. Over the last 15, 16 years, have been able to grow this company into a company that covers a pretty vast area in Florida and with clients outside of Florida.
That is awesome. And I love what you said about kind of both pivoting, but also kind of growing and evolving as you kind of looked at what the market needed and dictated. Dennis, talk to us, man. You're the only one on this panel. Well, one, you're the only guy on the panel, but you're also a NFTE alumni. So talk to us about your journey.
Yeah, so actually at my high school, we had a NFTE program, and it was called the Academy of Business and Finance. So I always knew since high school, I wanted to go into business, participating in that program. So my favorite class actually was my entrepreneurship class. I always knew I wanted to do something, had little small businesses in high school. After high school, I went to San Francisco State University, majoring in marketing. At that school, they had a bunch of internship programs that we were able to participate in. I did a couple of them, really got to see the ins and outs of digital marketing, and found that that was something I was really interested in. The experience at those internships are really cool, because in the Bay Area here, we have a lot of social media companies. So it's kind of like the epicenter of social media. We got to see Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook before any of those got like really big and really national. So we're already on those platforms, years before the rest of the country, really. After college, I worked at a couple of medical device companies in the Bay Area, and those are really interesting experiences as well. Working in a really like highly regulated industry, we had to be careful with your messaging and kind of talking to a more affluent demographic, which is doctors, nurses, people like that. So that was a really interesting experience. I did digital marketing at those businesses for about 2 years. I was having fun, but I wasn't enjoying the whole corporate commuting and being at the office all the time. So I decided to quit my job in 2016 and try to start my own business, really. After 2016, I first started a marketing agency just to use what I already know. But soon after that, my mom and my dad were both entrepreneurs as well. Seeing that they were struggling with their business and struggling with what they're doing, I decided to use what I know with digital marketing to help them get more customers to really build up their business. My mom owned a hair and nail salon, helped her with her social media marketing, using Instagram, Yelp, Facebook to really promote her business. That was really successful and a really fun project to do. My dad was doing landscaping construction. We also used Pinterest, House, Facebook to really get the message out and build up his social media marketing to get more customers. And yeah, that was basically how I got to where I am today.
Awesome, awesome. So each of you kind of shared a story about kind of your origin story, kind of like the Avengers. So talk to me a little bit about social media strategy. How would you explain that, you know, like to somebody coming in who is a owns a construction company and doesn't understand this landscape of social media? How would you explain it? Dennis, you spoke about, you know, working with your parents on that. How do you explain using social media and a strategy behind that?
Yeah, I tell them social media is a way to engage with your customers in a way that's never been done before. In the past, media and advertising was like a one-way street where you basically put your message out there and people, you know, get hit with it. With social media, people are able to engage back with you, comment, like, share, you know, give their opinion on what you're doing. So it adds a layer of complexity to your advertising message. But having a proper social media strategy is really important because it guides you and helps you make the right decisions so that when you're doing this work, you know what the milestones are, you know what the goals are, and you know how to measure your success.
Awesome. Anne-Marie.
Sorry, I was unmuting. So I have a 5-point strategy, and it's platform, planning, content, engagement, and consistency. And so understanding social media strategy is first understanding what platform you need as a company. I don't think every social media platform is not for every company. It really depends on your type of company, who you're trying to reach, the type of relationships that you're trying to build online. So choosing an appropriate platform is the first thing, and then planning your social media, how often you're going to update your social media, contact your audience, engage with your audience. And there are different planning tools out there. One of the ones that we use is Airtable. And then content, what type of content are you developing for social media? Is it, you know, text? Is it photos? Is it videos? And what's the topic of the content, the subject matter? So being able to plan that out will help with the strategy in the long run. And then engagement, it should not be about selling, but should be more about conversations, engagement, educating your audience, giving them something that's useful. And then lastly, consistency. That's the biggest thing, especially for business owners, is being able to be consistent with your social media strategy, with your content, with engaging your audience, responding, making those updates. So those are like my 5 points to social media strategy.
I love those. I love those. Laurel, anything that you would like to add from your perspective? You're on mute. Hold on.
Permission. I'm good now.
Right.
I think Anne-Marie really nailed it. I think that is absolutely the right approach. Ultimately, when someone is brand new to the market, what I say to them is people buy from people. And that's really what social media is first and foremost. It's a social experience. So it has to be a conversation. It's a great opportunity to get real-time feedback from your audience. It's a great way to plan your creative. So one of the things we're going to get into is how to develop your budget and how to test and plan that. And social media is a great way to test creative. So there's a lot of different opportunities that social media allows you if you use it properly. But I think Anne-Marie said it best. It's really about making sure you understand the right platform for your particular business, understanding how to plan your creative, and being consistent is absolutely key to that. So other than the fact that people buy from people, and that's why social media is such a critical platform. I think, Anne-Marie, you nailed it. I love your approach.
And I love the fact that you said people buy from people, because I think a lot of the times we forget about the people aspect when we speak about marketing and branding. But really, it's really at the core of all of that. If you don't understand the people aspect, and when you're building your customer avatar, if you don't understand the people aspect, almost anything else that you build on top of that is not going to be successful. So I love the fact, I want you to kind of talk a little bit more about that. I love the fact that you mentioned understanding which platform works best for what you're trying to accomplish. What social media platforms do you think work best for a startup in the beginning?
Well, I think it's about testing specific to your category, right? So we have a lot of different kinds of businesses in startup land. We've got technology companies, and we've got service-based businesses, and we've got products, and we've got all this, you know, huge wide range of different kinds of businesses. So for me to say this is exactly the right platform for you would, I think I would be remiss as an agency to tell you what works best for your brand. The best approach is to test the different channels that you think might be the right approach, and then look to the metrics and see what the actual response is. Now, do I have a general understanding and belief system around which channels are right for which kinds of brands? Of course. But ultimately, you want to get really good at 2 or 3 platforms before you go wide on any, you want to be really good at the few that you've picked. And ultimately, the numbers don't lie. That's the most amazing thing. And what I don't understand about people that don't understand social is that the metrics are right there. Like, they show you exactly what's working and what doesn't, more so than any kind of other, platform, certainly outdoor, print, anything else that's already been in existence. So my suggestion would be, take a guess at what you think the right 2 or 3 platforms would be. Test those for a 30-day period and see which platforms get the best response for your particular brand, and then push more energy, budget, creative in that direction.
That is an awesome answer. Dennis, we're going to switch it up. You're up next. What do you think? How do you usually make that decision?
The decision of what social media platforms to target?
Yes, for your clients.
Yes. As I said, it's, as Laura said, sorry, it really depends on the industry that you're going to be targeting. Generally, you try to put yourself into the shoes of your customer and where they're going to be at. So if you want to, reach someone where they're looking for a local business or something, you wouldn't try to start off on Twitter or on Facebook. You would focus more on like the Google or the Yelps. So really putting yourself in the shoes of your customer really should dictate where you should focus first on your social media platforms.
Awesome, awesome. Miss Anne-Marie.
So just to piggyback on that, I think it goes back to when we look at marketing, and the root of that is market. Who is your target market? What type of business are you in? Are you in a service business, a product business? Most of us in a service business, it's really about strong relationships as well. So looking at platforms like, for example, LinkedIn would be a good tool for professional services, business to business. But then you look at, demographics as well. So who's using more Facebook right now versus Instagram? So when you look at your demographics, that's going to help you also determine which platforms you would use more of, because if your demographics is, let's just say 35 to 55, most of them will probably be on Facebook versus, you have a demographic, even though Instagram now is catching on with like every age group, but for the most part, it skews a lot younger with Instagram. And then you have newer platforms like TikTok, for example, that started out very, very young. And it's now, I think more so since this quarantine, is catching on to other demographics. So I think looking at your demographic, looking at the type of business, if it's a relationship business and you need to do business to business, LinkedIn is definitely a better platform for that. So really understanding who you need to connect with and how is going to be important on determining the platform as well.
Awesome. We do have a question from Miss Bridget, who had a question. Give me just a moment. I'm scrolling up here. So she was asking, when we're speaking about social media, sometimes sometimes accounts are fake, right? Like, you know, the whole thing with burner accounts and everything. How do you know who you're interacting with? Is the kind of, you know, because there was a point where people were making businesses where they sold, you know, followers. So how do you, anyone want to take that one?
I mean, it's still happening. So it's still a business out there. There are still like click farms and social media farms that are doing just that. I think the bigger question is, what is your goal with social, and is that impacting it? Because if it's not, then I would say ignore them, because in, you know, Facebook and Instagram, they go in and they do a clean house like every 30 days or so. So you'll see those accounts start to fall off if they're not real accounts. Instagram does, you know, go through all of that. And so does Facebook and some of the other channels as well. In terms of if you're trying to use, for example, influencers to engage with your business, that's when I would say it's probably a more impactful conversation to make sure that you're not talking to fake followers and that you're not engaging with fake followers, because you obviously want your brand to be talking to people who are going to impact it positively. So one of the things that you can look to is, you know, just do a little homework, do a little digging into that person. Do they have, you know, 10,000 followers, but only 2 posts? What do their engagement numbers look like? There's also a lot of really great social media aggregation platforms out there that actually, you know, put all these influencers into into different pots, and they rank them based on their engagement, based on their followers, based on their time on platform. So there are a lot of different things you can look to, but it's, at this point, it's really not that hard to tell when someone's fake. I mean, you look at their, like I said, you look at their followership versus their engagement versus their number of posts, and it's usually fairly clear what's real and what's not.
Awesome. Anne Marie or Dennis, did you have anything else that you wanted to kind of add to that?
I think too, with especially on Instagram, like some of the other telltale facts about, and Laurel hit it right on the head. Like they'll add like these little numbers behind their name, and so that's another way to tell like it's not a real account, because most of us aren't adding like 10 numbers behind our name. So, you know, just looking at the handle, the social media handle, and making sure it's real. Now, as far as responses go, now you do have businesses that it's not that it's a fake account, but they may be using some type of platform to help automate their business. So sometimes you may get some different automation type messages, and if they don't know how to engage with the appropriate content through the automation, then it could come off very like fake. So, and that's something that we can definitely dive into about how to better like manage your social media through different automation platforms and software, but doing it in a way that you don't seem like you have a fake account either.
Awesome. Dennis, what do you have to say?
The thing about social media, like I said earlier, was that it's a two-way street where you're engaging with your customers no matter what platform you're on. And to deal with fake accounts, I mean, there's always someone behind it, honestly. Even though it's a fake person, it may not be their you know, actual name or anything, but it's still a person behind the screen typing up those messages, using those bots or something. There's a reason behind why they're doing what they're doing. And it's just a way for you to showcase how you would engage with customers. One of the things, like I said earlier, was that I work with local businesses, and fake reviews is a big problem in Yelp and Google. We always recommend to our business owners to respond to them. Although the reviews may be negative, it still showcases how you deal with customers and how you deal with negative feedback. So depending on what type of reviews, message, comments you're getting, it may be advisable just to respond to them in the most professional way you can, having a kind of a boilerplate template type of response, to not spend so much time on those, but still responding and keeping yourself engaged on those platforms.
Awesome. And I love that you kind of did touch on some of the negative aspects, right? Like you said, it's a conversation, it's a two-way street, but it's not always a positive when you get that communication back from the social part of the social media. And when we're talking about that, I read a quote that said, if you're not paying for the product, then you are the product. So I really wanted to kind of use that as an entry to this next question, which is social media free And why do you, or why not would you say that? Dennis, talk to me.
Social media is not free, in my opinion. That's one of the misconceptions we deal with a lot with customers, especially as consultants. They think, hey, you guys do social media, you guys just post things on my Facebook account, my Twitter account. It's as simple as that, right? But you know, the time that we spend thinking about the creatives, thinking about the images, the headlines, all that costs money on our end, the time that we could be using to, you know, do other things really. So in my opinion, time equals money, and time is a very valuable resource. So as entrepreneurs and as small business owners, we need to consider that time as a cost to our business. What goes into social media? Social media involves posting content, pictures, headlines, videos, blogs. All those things, you know, to do really well takes a lot of your time. So again, time equals money, and I think that is a valuable thing that makes social media not free.
And Marie.
So one of the things I learned in economics when I was in high school is that there's always an opportunity cost, so nothing's free.
I was waiting for somebody to bring up opportunity costs.
So nothing is free. There's always an opportunity cost, whether it's your time, or you may have to, you know, at some point pay somebody else to help manage your social media. So no, it's not free in that form. Now, the way I look at it is, if you're just looking to grow and reach a small group of people and grow organically, then you can do social media in a freemium type way, where, you know, you're adding friends, you're adding followers, and, you know, you reach them. But because of the way algorithms are set up, you're still only going to reach a small group. So even if you have 5,000 friends on Facebook, it's only a few hundred that are seeing your post. So that's why the ads come in, because if you want to reach a wider audience, even within your friends group and your followers, you got to pay for that. And then if you want to reach those outside of your current audience and followers, then you're definitely going to pay for that to reach a larger audience. The good thing about social media, what I like, unlike traditional advertising, is that you can really set your budget. So if you only have $10 to spend, then you spend those $10 and just make sure you run a very tight, targeted ad with those $10. Or if you have $100 to spend for the month. So, but just understand that your reach is going to be limited. That's why you have to be very targeted and really learn how to target your social media purchases. So that way, you know, you're not wasting your money, but it also allows you to test it out. Like Laurel said earlier, you can really use this as a testing opportunity. So even if you spent $10 to just test the audience and see how the engagement would be, and then say, oh, this was great, let me put another 10 or 20 or $50 to it. So it's really about how you want to grow, how many people you want to reach, what type of engagement you want to have, on whether or not you pay or continue to just post, and whoever sees it, sees it.
Awesome. Laurel?
I mean, everyone said it really well. Time is money for sure. And the truth is about social media is that people can do it themselves. And I actually recommend that they do try it themselves for at least the first 30 to 60 days when they're trying to do something and grow their brand, because then they understand how much time and effort it really takes. I think at that point, usually then they can have a much more intelligent conversation with an agency, because they're like, well, it was taking 60 hours a month for me to do this. I don't have time to do this. I'm trying to run my business. Now I understand the value of investing in an agency partner to help support this. So I think people really don't understand the volume of hours it takes to actually execute a strategic campaign, because you have to think about, what is your overarching marketing calendar for that product or service? What does the creative need to look like to sell that month over month or quarter over quarter or year over year? What are the creative overarching campaigns? How do we test that creative? So what do the visuals look like? And how are we testing that to make sure that we know that that's right? Is our audience targeting proper, as Anne-Marie was saying? What does our budget need to look like, and how are we testing that? I mean, there's a lot of different factors, and it always makes me laugh when people are like, well, I could have just done that. And I'm like, then you go ahead and do that. Have fun and get back to me, because it takes a hell of a lot more time, heck of a lot more time than anyone ever imagines. And we actually use a tracking software called Harvest that tracks all of our time in every category of digital marketing and experiential for that matter. And we know that, for example, for a consumer packaged good, like a product company, it can take anywhere from 60 to 100 hours a month to execute organic and paid social. I mean, when you break that down, that is a lot of time, but we back all of our budgets up and our expenses to the client with real numbers so they can see where the time is spent. So we don't just say this is kind of generally what you expect. We're like, here's all the numbers. Here's what it takes to manage an organic campaign. Here's what it takes to manage and execute a paid campaign. If you want to go do that on your own, that's pretty much going to be your full-time job. So have fun with that.
So I love this, right? Because at the beginning you said math wasn't your favorite subject, but it seems like social media marketing in general is both an art and a science, and
100%.
really at the core of it. And that's a great way to kind of end the answer to that question, because the next question was going to be, how much time should a business owner expect to spend on social media marketing, right? And you kind of touched on that, right? You said about 60 hours a month.
It's really depending on the category of business. Like if you're a service-based business versus a product business, I mean, there's a lot of outliers to determine what that should look like for your brand, especially if you're a new baby brand that's just starting up and trying to pick up market share versus an established brand that's just trying to be in the conversation or, you know, moving into new markets. So there's a lot of kind of dependent factors there, but ultimately that's why we decided to track all of our time, even though I was never a fan of the numbers, but they really do, again, support what it costs to execute a campaign in this category. So I think ultimately it's really critical. And I highly recommend that anyone who is starting out and executing, start tracking their time, and they're going to see, wow, I went down a rabbit hole and I spent 3 hours on something that I thought was only going to take me 20 minutes. And that's why social media marketing is expensive. Not expensive, it's a good investment. Sorry, I took that right back.
No, that was a great way to kind of reframe, right? Because a lot of the times people think that it's expensive because there's a dollar attached to it, but they don't look at the return on the investment.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Spend $1, but you get back $10. Then was it really expensive, or was it a great investment? Anne Marie, anything you want to share in regards to what a small business or even a business owner starting out should expect to spend time-wise?
Yeah, so especially if you don't have a strategy, number one, if you don't have a planner, you will spend so much time on social media that it'll eat up your day. And as a business owner, that is probably just not the best use of your time to be on social media all day, unless like you're completely selling something online and that's your only way to make your sales. So what I recommend from a time management standpoint, that's why the content planner is so important. And I say, you know, what I tell our clients is, okay, let's put together a social media planner and let's look at the next 30, 60, 90 days. What's coming up? What do we want to promote? What do we want to highlight? How do we want to engage people? And what platforms do we want to use to do this? And then this way we can now at least pre-plan as much as possible. If we're able to pre-plan, that's going to save you some time, because now you know exactly what type of content, so if you need video, if you need photos, if you need to write a blog, whatever that may be, you can now start putting all those different pieces into place. And then if you also utilize an automation type platform, that will help you save time, because there are certain things, if you know your content and you know what you're putting it on and you know the platforms, even Facebook and Instagram allows you to schedule posts. So now you can also schedule, pre-schedule what you want to post, which is going to save you a lot of time as a business owner as well. So there are ways to manage your time effectively with your social media strategy, but it really takes planning.
Dennis.
To piggyback on the marketing automation tool, I want to give the students one tool that we use in-house called Hootsuite. It's a social media posting tool that you're able to do exactly what Anne Marie was saying, where if you have your plan already set out, you can actually use this tool to post to all these social medias in advance. And then it will automatically post at that set time and date. But in regards to the day-to-day, I think that business owners should at least check their media social accounts once a day to respond to any comments or reviews that they get. And And like Laura was saying, that social media is an investment. If you think about any type of investment, stocks, bonds, anything like that, it's you invest what you can comfortably afford, and in time that investment will usually pay off in the long run. And you just can't expect to have these investments pay off the next day. It's one of those things where you plant the seed now, and in a year it'll keep giving you fruit essentially.
Look, I love that, because one of the questions, Pablo Perez from Coral Gables Senior, was asking about when you start a business, or if you were trying to start a business during this time, right, the quarantine, what kind of startup costs do you think, the word he used was waived, but I think could be kind of like minimized, and what would be the best way to start without bringing a lot to the table? So do you have any kind of tips for that, something like that, kind of bootstrapping lean startup?
Yeah, I think the thing that startup entrepreneurs and business owners can really invest in during this time, it's content. Content could be anything from blogs, videos, reviews, testimonials, anything like that. Right now is a great time where you have a lot of time to think about what you can put out there, planning that content calendar, writing those blog posts, writing those social media posts so that you can schedule them out. That in itself is not expensive to do, but that's really important in terms of what this whole social media thing is about. Having great content is like really the backbone of a social media strategy.
Ladies?
Oh, go ahead, Laura.
Go ahead. No, you go.
No, I was just saying, I totally agree. This is a great time for anyone out there that wants to start a business to, number one, if you're just looking to start a business, definitely create a business plan in general, and you can go to score.org to download their business plan template. So that would be the first thing. Definitely write out your business plan, but within your business plan, there is a marketing plan section in there. So working on your marketing plan, and then I definitely agree with Dennis. This is the perfect time to work on content, because that's usually the most time-consuming part of social media strategy, is what am I actually publishing on social media, and what is it? Even if it's a video, you still have to think about the script for the video. You still have to think about what elements you're going to have in the video. You're going to have music, or you're going to have what background you're going to have. What's the script? What's the subject matter? How long will it be? Am I going to create shorter versions of that video? So content planning and the execution is critical with this time that you have now, especially for those of us who are usually running around. This is a good time to focus on that content creation.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Amazon has some really great tools for you to support content creation. I'm going to turn my computer screen around. This is a little ring light that helps with just beautifying a situation with a little stand in the middle. So you can just put your iPhone on there and just start practicing content creation. We've done some studies in the last month, and there are reports that are showing that viewership and engagement is up 30 to 50% online right now. So now is the time to be creating content and testing and seeing what your audience is responding to. We also have a lot of planning tools. So if you go to elevatemybrand.com, in the upper left-hand corner, there's a free marketing guide. So it gives you every week it gives you a new email with kind of a breakdown of what you should be doing to plan out your marketing. So now would be a good time to practice and create content, and also start with your planning, so that when we're out of this, you can what we call launch rich.
I love that. Now, I'm going to be very honest. I'm going to try to get to all of the questions in the chat, but it seems like out of all of the sessions we've done so far, this one is the one that I think, because a lot of our students exist in a digital world right now, right? They grew up on social media, so it's almost like a second language for them. So I'm going to do one more question, and then we're going to go to the student questions. Whatever we don't get, I definitely am going to try to, we're going to have an opportunity for them to ask some of those questions on a form, and then we'll just try to kind of continue on. I know that time is of the essence and you have limited time, but we'll try to do what we can to get as many of these questions answered. This one is about mistakes that a lot of businesses make when trying to execute social media. We'll start with Anne Marie. What would you say would be one or two of the biggest mistakes that businesses make with their social media strategy?
I think the top three mistakes that I've seen businesses make, including my own, because we're a marketing agency, but we focus on our clients and not as much on ourselves. So number one would be the wanting to sell to people. That's the biggest mistake. Like, it's not a selling platform. It's really conversational. It's really engagement. It's really, giving information and giving people useful information or things that they want to do, even if it's in a fun, humorous way. So don't sell. That's the number one thing. The second thing is consistency, either not checking and using social media consistently or not putting content up consistently. And that's where the planning comes in, which leads you to the last one, which is the failure to plan, not planning your social media strategy, not planning your social media content. So those are the three biggest mistakes that I've seen.
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Laurel.
I always say that marketing in general is kind of like dating, right? So all the things that Emery was saying is 100% true. Like, if someone just called you once a month, do you think that you're going to probably end up marrying that person? Probably not. And it's the same thing with making a purchase decision, right? If someone is like, hey, buy my stuff, you're going to be like, I don't know you. Like, why would I buy your stuff? I don't understand. We don't have a relationship. You're just push marketing. And it's really offensive, frankly. Like, if someone was just like, sorry, booty calling you like once a month, you're not going to be like into that, right? As opposed to building a relationship. And that's, again, comes back to that social conversation around social media. So I think Emery, again, is totally right. If you're selling really hard, people receive that. It's aggressive. Social media is at first social. And then the planning piece. I mean, that's the number one failure that we see from businesses, is that they're like, well, I put myself out there. I don't understand what's not working. And you're like, well, yeah, you post like once a week, and your competitors are posting amazing content consistently with great ads behind it and talking to their audience. So yeah, obviously you're falling flat compared to your competitors. So I think it's consistency, planning, and making sure that you're not really being aggressive and salesy. I think it's an 80-20 rule. Is that what you go by, Emery?
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think, who was that? Neil Patel or Gary Vee used to always say, 80% should be, 80, explain it to the students that might not be as familiar.
Sure.
80% would be content that's not selling,
exactly,
content that's useful to them as the audience, and that provides value. And 20% would be actual marketing for sales purposes.
Look at you. You could be a marketer. I love it. A marketeer.
I've played in the sandbox before, but not at the level that y'all have played at. Dennis, talk to me. What would you say is something that you've encountered that a lot of small businesses or even big businesses struggle with?
I think one of the biggest mistakes that hasn't been touched on is the fact that different social media channels has different types of messages you need to be pushing to them. One content is not usable across all the social media channels. So that's, again, why it takes so much time to plan a proper social media strategy. The second thing is business owners spread themselves too thin in terms of the channels that they're advertising on. They think that it's a good idea just to have a Twitter, a Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all those channels, and post, here and there. Something is better than nothing. But that mentality is not right with social media. People can see that if you're not spending time on, the platform that they care about, that you may not, care about them as much as, you think you are. So just really keeping the message on each platform unique, and then focusing on the platform that will give you the most return on investment.
I love that answer. And then, all right. So there were, to the students' questions, Sophia Diaz was asking, when making demand for your company on social media, how do you balance your content when there are multiple services in your business? And I think Anne-Marie sort of touched on that. Each of you kind of touched on that a little bit, but do you want to kind of speak to that specific question?
Can you repeat that again for me, Dave? I apologize.
Absolutely. When when trying to build demand for your company on social media, how do you balance your content when there are multiple services in your business?
Ooh.
And I think this kind of goes to what Dennis was saying about horizontal rather than vertical, right? If you spread yourself too thin. So.
Right. So I think it goes back to the platform. So for example, if we're doing events and we're promoting events, I think, you know, using Facebook and Instagram are probably the two that we use most specifically for the event promotion side of the business. And usually that's because people, you know, may be interested in attending or engaging somehow. But when it comes to the actual service side of the sales, then I'm probably going to use more of a LinkedIn, because that's where I'm connecting with decision makers. That's where I'm connecting with those who can, you know, who, or the marketing people who would know what it is that I'm actually pitching to them, versus the general public on Facebook, for example, may not, you know, be as engaged in me coming on and talking about, you know, market research, for example. So I think it really, again, goes back to the platform. We provide a lot of different services. So depending on what that service is, how we can communicate it in layman's terms to the audience, and educate them and make it useful for them, will help market our services in turn. So it's never really a sale. So it's kind of like even this today. It's more of, how do I educate somebody about social media? The reality is, kind of like Laurel alluded to earlier, if they're a business owner and they look at, you know, once they learn it, they're like, well, I still don't have time to do all of this. Okay, Mosaic, how do I engage your firm to make this happen for me? So it's not a direct sale. It's really educating. It's really looking at the appropriate platform to educate and engage about the variation of the services that we offer. I hope that answered it.
It did for me. I hope it answered it for her. Laurel or Dennis, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that answer or for that question?
In terms of what?
Go ahead, Dennis. I was gonna say it's a complex question, right? Because we have to know what industry it's in, what kind of services. I think ultimately the same rules apply, you know, 80-20 rule. So if you have 10 different services, how can you provide education around those services as opposed to selling those services, or content that's valuable around those services that show what the pain point is to the end customer and how you're solving it, right? So you're actually creating content that is kind of surrounding, it's more of a soft sell within those service categories. And then maybe once a month, or, you know, based on that 80-20 rule, you have like 1 or 2 hard sale pushes for one of those service categories or 2 of those service categories. And then based on your planning, maybe that's how you then, you know, push out your marketing sales month over month. So I would say focus in on what's valuable for that month, create valuable content around that. But again, staying really true to consistency and more of the value providing than the push sales marketing.
Wow. Dennis?
And to, in terms of choosing what type of service and what type of content to really push out there, as a small business, I like to think about it as like a value ladder, where you are essentially starting off at the bottom of the value ladder, providing services that are very low cost, low friction, getting people to be introduced to your business first before pushing them onto a higher ticket item down the line. But just really understanding what your core business is and what your core services are, and providing that value again without, you know, asking for money up front, asking for them to pay for your service, but, you know, just getting them engaged with your brand to really be introduced to you and trust you before, you know, you start selling them on your stuff.
I love that. You just described, I think, what some of the students have been introduced to as MVP, the minimally viable product. So it's something that don't try to sell them something here. Just get them to get comfortable with transactions with you, get comfortable with you, and then from there. Actually, so there were 2 questions that were really great that I wanted to get into before we end today's session. The first one was, someone was asking about resources, right? Because there's a lot that you can say and do, but at the end of the day, you cannot, there's no way to cover everything about social media that a small business owner or even a student could know, we could do a 2-3 hour session with each of you individually. So what would you say are the top 3 or 4 resources that you could recommend for someone who wants to know a little bit more? You can also plug for your own if you would like.
Well, I'll start because I have to jump in 1 minute because I have a meeting that I've got to get to. But we do an Ask Me Anything every single Friday. So if you follow Laurel Mintz on Instagram, come over on Friday and you can continue to ask questions and we can have a conversation. So there's an example of a dialogue that you're having on social media. In terms of opportunities to use what's out there, we use Plan, P-L-A-N-N, and Planoly, P-L-A-N-O-L-Y. Those are 2 great planning platforms. Also platforms like Splash That, which are free content platforms. So you need to be thinking about it from like the top down. What are the platforms I'm going to be on? What does the content and creative need to look like? And making sure that the creative is either uniquely owned by you or license free, because you don't want to get in trouble by using an image that someone owns, right? And then how are you planning that content out on what platforms that are planning to push to different channels? So that's kind of how I would look at it as a kind of starting out. And I'm going to run, guys. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so very much.
Best of luck to everyone.
A pleasure.
Nice meeting you, Laurel.
Nice to meet you guys. You guys are awesome.
It's not. She's out on the West Coast. It's actually 9 o'clock. She's beginning her day, her work day, if you will. Well, if you're a marketer and a business owner, your day probably began 3 hours ago. But right. She's not at lunchtime. She's in the middle of her day. So, Anne Marie.
So let's see, top 3 platforms. So we utilize Airtable, and Airtable has a freemium version. So what's cool about Airtable is not only do they have templates for content planning and social media planning, but they have templates for basically any type of planning. So events, whatever it may be. So that's one that we utilize. Another one that you can use, Zapier, is one that will connect different platforms together and help you with automation. So that's one that I would recommend. And then, let's see, we talked about Hootsuite already. And then there, you know, within those, the good old YouTube. So if you don't understand digital media content, social media platforms, or if you're interested in a particular platform, there is a demo, there is a YouTube video for everything. And I know you guys are all over YouTube and different video platforms. So use your time to really seek out those tutorials, seek out those how-to videos that other experts have created. For me, we are actually launching the Mosaic Marketing Minute, which will be a weekly marketing minute. So if you inbox me on Instagram at @AMarieSorrell, or if you send us an email on not on Facebook, you send us an email on any of our social media at the Mosaic Group. And any marketing tips that you want that will help us create our marketing minute, and we'll customize one that'll fit your question that you send us.
Awesome. And Dennis, talk to me.
I think that the 2 other hosts really brought up a lot of really great tools and platforms already. I think the one that I'll touch on is Facebook advertising. Facebook advertising is a really great tool to reach all kinds of audience. They have a really great algorithm to get you in front of the right customers with your product. All types of businesses are using that platform, and they're one of the fastest growing advertising platforms on earth, really. So it's really something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners should really look at.
I appreciate it. And I will say this, for anyone whose question we didn't get a chance to get to, we will absolutely try to connect with them on social media so that we can continue a broader discussion, as long as we're talking about social media. Are you speaking to us, Anne? Oh, all right, no. I want to ask, as we finish, would you have, let's say, 30 to 45 seconds, grand takeaway that you think you really want to share, something that we didn't get a chance to talk about, but you really wanted to make sure that the students left with? You get to go first, Daniel. I mean, Dennis, I'm Daniel.
Yeah, no problem. I think the one key takeaway from this whole conversation is really about consistency and content. So really just having the right content and being consistent posting on social media.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much for your time. And Miss Anne Marie, you actually get the last word.
Oh man, the last word. So what I want to say to all the students on here, kudos for being on this virtual webinar today. So kudos to you for that. And also for having an interest in entrepreneurship. That's amazing. And I wish you all the best with your endeavor. But what I want to leave you with is planning is critical. Goal setting. So really understand what the goal of your business is and what you want to accomplish, not just in the long run, but short-term goals are really important, and how you plan on achieving them, putting your plan together, which includes your social media planning, and then just be determined and have a no matter what attitude to get it done. So that would be my closing words for all of you students, and I appreciate you guys having me be a part of this.
No, we appreciate you immensely. Thank you so very much. I do see that Julia has put your social media content and website information in the chat as well. Thank you so very much for all of the students who hopped on today. I do apologize from the bottom of my heart for not being able to get to all of the questions. I promise you we are going to be collecting the questions on the forms that you fill out, and we will try to do what we can to get some answers to those. We'll probably be using our Instagram account to kind of touch on those questions. So definitely feel free to follow us at nifty, and us specifically in the South Florida region at Nifty, Florida. Thank you so very much to all of our participants, Miss Anne Marie Sorrell, Miss 30-Hour Days, Mr. Dennis Ho. Thank you so very much for all that you've shared with us. Y'all have an amazing afternoon.
And students in Atlanta, North Carolina, Florida, please copy the link in the chat box for your teachers. Fill out that form, just copy and paste it into your URL. Appreciate it.
Those of you that had specific questions about your business, I saw a couple of those in the chat that were very, very specific. Laurel already shared out that she's got Fridays as her live Fridays on her Instagram. So take her up on that. Same thing with Anne Marie, shared out that she's got some time that she's got set up. Please, please, please build your networking skills, take them up on those offers to actually connect. They are more than happy to help you. You just got to find them on Instagram and ask them your question. So,
by the way, I do want to say this before everybody hops off. It's not specific to social media, but it is something that we can use social media for. There's a saying that says your network is your net worth. You will be surprised at how far you can go in life if you connect with the right people and build relationships with them. Social media allows you to do just that. About 80-something% of employers now look at your social media when you apply for a job, which means that if you are planning to be a business owner, if you're planning to go further in life other than just being successful in high school, definitely make sure that you're cognizant of the fact that your social media is not just something that you can use to build who you're going to be in the future. If you're just a business owner, it's actually relevant to what you do in life. And please, 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 if you're in 11th grade or 12th grade, create a LinkedIn profile from now, because you would be surprised at how easy it is to get in contact with people from big companies who are in a position that you want to go to, and start building a relationship with them from now. Networking. Just because we can't necessarily go to live networking events doesn't mean that there are not still opportunities for you to engage and start building relationships with people that can help you to progress on your path from now. So I always recommend taking adults up on the offer to connect with them, because you'd be surprised at how much value. I am who I am today because of people ahead of me that reached back and showed me certain things and helped me to navigate my scholarships and everything that I accomplished. A lot of it was based on relationships, not just based on being me. So definitely take that advantage of that. Thank you so very much for participating, and we will see you Thursday for service-based businesses. Have a wonderful afternoon.